So do you have a small nagging feeling that something's missing in your life? Are you not sure exactly what that is? If so, this episode is just for you. Let's get started. Hey Messenger, welcome to the Market Your Message Show. I'm Jonathan Milligan, author of the brand new book, Your Message Matters. And our goal here in this show is to help you rise above the noise and get paid for what you know. Now today's episode is called What to Do When Staying on the Same Path is Not an Option. In fact, here's what we'll discover today in this episode. Why finding your purpose in life is the opposite of what you think. How to capitalize on your current situation, even if you hate where you are in life. Why having an unsettled desire is a good thing, not a bad thing, and much, much more. But first, before we get into all of that, maybe you don't know where to start. You're like, Jonathan, I don't even know where to start. Like, do I write a book? Do I start a blog, a podcast? Who's my audience? What are my gifts? If all of those questions you've been asking yourself, then here's where you start. Go to marketyourmessage.com/discover and grab our Discover Your Message blueprint. This is a 10-page guide that will help you get started on finding your purpose, your people, and your passion. All right, today I want to kick off with a story that I absolutely love. It's from a book I read years ago called The Dream Giver. In fact, I tell this story in chapter 2 of the book, and it's a book that was very impactful to me on my journey of figuring out what my purpose is and what is it that I'm going to be doing with my life. What's my calling? So let me tell you a little bit about this story. So in his modern day parable, The Dream Giver, Bruce Wilkinson tells a story of a character named Ordinary. And he lives in what's known as the land of familiar. Doesn't that sound eerily like us? You know, we feel ordinary. We're living in the land of familiar. Well, here's how Ordinary's life went. Each morning, Ordinary gets up and goes to his usual job. In the evenings after dinner, he sits in the recliner and stares at the box that mesmerizes most nobodies. Now, when I first read that statement, I laughed out loud because what's the box? What's the box that we stare at that just kind of mesmerizes most nobodies? It's the TV. It's the television set. There's certainly nothing wrong with watching TV, but sometimes we can use it as a coping mechanism to drown out this desire for more, this desire to create, this desire to do something different. Let's catch back up with our story. Every day for Ordinary is an exact copy of the day before. Ordinary seems content with his daily routines. He's content with life, and he even finds it really reliable and predictable. That is, until the day everything changes. Bruce Wilkinson, the author of the book, describes it like this, quote, Ordinary noticed a small nagging feeling that something big was missing from his life. Or maybe the feeling was that he was missing from something big. He wasn't sure. End of quote. Now, later in the story, Ordinary discovers that nagging feeling is his big dream. It's tugging at him to be noticed. Now, at first, this realization excites him. You know, the thought of going after his big dream gives purpose to his life. Yet, Ordinary has a big problem. And it's probably the same problem that you and I face. And it's this. The dream inside of him is too big for an ordinary like himself. Can you relate? Do you have a small nagging feeling inside that maybe something's missing in your life? Maybe like Ordinary, you're not even sure exactly what it is. That's okay. Because I want to share with you today 3 truths that you can hold on to today. Even if you feel like you're in the wrong place, wrong time, I have a dream. I don't even know what it is, but I have a dream to do something big. Let me share 3 truths with you today. Here's truth number 1. You have a gift, and your gift is needed in the world. You see, I fundamentally believe everyone's born with a gift. You were born with the seed of greatness. But the truth is, it's up to you to grow it, nurture it, and use it to make a difference in the world. As Leo Biscaglia once said, quote, "Your talent is God's gift to you, but what you do with it is your gift back to God." Now, I dismissed my unique gift for years. I set it aside, and instead I just went on a journey to try to find my great purpose. And I used to think it must be lurking out there somewhere. I figured it's got to be out there somewhere. It's got to be in a title, in a company, in a position. I just needed to try harder to find it. But what I failed to realize is that I had it in me all along. My purpose was actually inside of me. It was what's unique about me, what's changeless about me, how I show up best, regardless of the job title. And maybe you feel that way too. You look at your life and you just kind of doubt your abilities like ordinary. You doubt the greatness that exists inside you. Well, that's why we need others to help us uncover what's great about us. See, here's the thing. You have immense value to share with the world. And your purpose in life is to uncover it. Uncover that gift that you have, that uniqueness you've been given, and then use it to serve others in the world. That's truth number 1. Here's truth number 2. Surround yourself with others who believe in your message. You got to surround yourselves with others who believe in you. Now, while it may feel noble to kind of charge ahead alone, you're still going to need what I call message carriers along the way. Now, message carriers are the people who catch the vision of what you're trying to do. Here's a great example. I love, and I talk about this story in my book, Walt Disney. Well, did Walt Disney do it on his own? No. Walt Disney had his brother Roy. Now, Roy's talents was in the numbers side of the business. Roy worked on financing the dream while Walt focused on the creative side. There were also Disney employees who caught the vision. In fact, in the early days, animators worked for Walt Disney without pay because they believed in the dream that much. They worked nights and weekends to get the cartoons done. You see, Walt had inspired them. They had a mission and a message to get out to the world. And all this hard work eventually paid off for these animators, enabling them to pursue dreams of their own. They were in total support of Walt's vision. How about you? Are there message carriers in your life? Maybe you've taken them for granted. If so, I want you to thank them for their unwavering support. But can I be honest, sometimes you may need to go outside of your friends and family to find that support. Remember, I kicked off with our character named Ordinary? You see, what Ordinary felt inside was the stirring of his big dream. To get to the land of promise, he had to leave the land of familiar. But in order to leave the land of familiar, he had to get past what was known as the border bullies who were blocking his path. And I love the way that the author expresses this, how Bruce expresses this in his fiction story. Because as Ordinary gets to the end of the comfort zone, and he's ready to cross that bridge and leave the land of familiar, he come across border bullies. But to his surprise, the border bullies were not strangers. They were people he knew. In fact, this is what Bruce said in the book, quote, "He never imagined that they'd be some of the nobodies who knew him best. Now his mother, uncle, and best friend all stood silently before him, blocking his view of the bridge to his big dream. How would he ever get past them? Should he even try? He needed time to think." End of quote. Most creative entrepreneurs, I find, feel a lot like ordinary. They feel isolated with this big dream inside of them. I know I did. You see, no one else quite gets the vision that we see. Where we see an opportunity, our friends sometimes see demise. They don't want to see us get hurt. And here's a key point. They're afraid of losing something important. Us. But what they fail to realize is that staying the same is already killing us. It's a slow death of the soul. We were born with a purpose, a calling, a deep mission to pursue. Our high seas calls. We must answer. Here's the answer, my friend. You got to surround yourself with people who believe in you. Are you surrounded by a community of people who can lift the lid on your potential and to help you have the courage to move forward? And that brings me to truth number 3. Bloom where you're planted. My mother used to say this to me often as I was getting into adulthood and trying to figure things out. Most of you know that I'm a former high school teacher. My parents were teachers. I thought I was just going to be a teacher the rest of my life. But I was surprised when I was unsettled in my teaching job and I didn't know what to do. And I remember my mom just always telling me, John, bloom where you're planted. Bloom where you're planted. Here's the truth. And I think this is true for a lot of us. It's true for me. Sometimes we're given that dream like ordinary, or that vision, or that message to pursue, but we're in the wrong place, the wrong time, and we're headed in the wrong direction. Do you feel like that? Well, not long after I was married, my wife said to me, "You're going to write a book someday." But you know what was interesting? When she said those words, at that moment, I couldn't have been any further away from being able to make her declaration come true. I had no audience. I had no experience. I had no manuscript. I had no book idea. I wasn't a professional writer. As far as I was concerned, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time to become a professional writer. And not only that, I was going in the wrong direction if I wanted to make that happen. In fact, I'd even skipped typewriting class in high school. I thought it was, better to take yearbook instead. But to this day, and this is true for me, I still don't know how to set my fingers on home row while typing. I'm pecking away, looking down at my keyboard, learning how to do this, and yet, here's the book. Here's the book. Now, the point is, when that dream was birthed in my heart, and that seed was planted from the words of my wife, it didn't happen in the next 30 days. It was years in the making. But what I have discovered is the value of blooming where you're planted. Now, I know it's not easy, but blooming where you're planted sometimes is exactly what you need to do. Sometimes we have to make that difficult decision to move on. Yes, it's not always about just staying somewhere, but sometimes there's a skill, there's an experience, there's an untapped talent that can be developed right where you are right now. And then you use all of those various skills, and the culmination of what you've been working on comes together, and you begin to live out your dream. So, what was most impactful to you? Which of those 3 truths do you want to hold on to? Truth 1, you have a gift. Your gift's needed in the world. Truth 2, you need to surround yourself with other message carriers. And truth 3, sometimes it's wise to bloom where you're planted. Now, if right now you're wondering, Jonathan, how do I even get started? Where do I start? Well, don't forget, we have a guide to help you. This is a 10-page guide called the Discover Your Message Blueprint. And you can grab a free copy today. Just go to marketyourmessage.com/discover and get your 10-page guidebook for free. Well, that is it for this episode. Did you enjoy this episode? I hope so. And if you did, would you take a moment, like, share, or subscribe, or even review our show? And also, what topics would you like for me to cover in future episodes? Let me know. But until then, never forget, your message matters.